Mark Spears from ESPN's Anscape, and welcome to the Mohegan Sun here in Connecticut. It's great to have you here. We actually got people here this year. This is cool. It's been empty for a couple years. And it's great to have everyone out there watching on NBA TV, NBA.com, and the NBA app. We are here today for the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame Class of 2022 press conference. Nine of the 16 newest members will soon take the stage to answer questions from me, the assembled media, and members of the media joining us remotely. This is just the beginning of what promises to be an outstanding weekend with tomorrow's official induction into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame live on NBA TV. But before we begin, I would like to mention the 7 inductees from the 2022 class who will be honored posthumously at tomorrow's ceremony. From the North American Committee, I got to talk to a couple months ago, condolences to his family, longtime NBA referee Hugh Evans. The Early African American Pioneer Committee is recognizing 3 this year: Wyatt Sonny Boswell, Inman Jackson, and Albert Runt Pullins. The Veterans Committee will honor one of the greatest players in Atlanta Hawks history, Sweet Lou Hudson. This contributor, selected by the Veterans Direct Elect Committee, won an NBA title as a player and coach, Larry Costello. And finally, he is known as Yugoslavia's first superstar, selected as a direct elect by the International Committee, Radovoje Koric. Give them all a round of applause. Now, let's get started with today's program. First to the stage is the President and CEO of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, John D'Oliva.
Good afternoon and welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here to celebrate the class of 2022. We're kicking off here at Mohegan Sun. We've got our awards tonight, the awards ceremony tonight for the Bunn and the Gowdy Award, the Manny Jackson Basketball's Human Spirit Award. We've got some great award winners that have clearly made their life's commitment the betterment of the game of basketball, and we're looking forward to celebrating them tonight. And we're also looking forward, of course, to tomorrow, heading up to Springfield, to the Basketball Hall of Fame and the Symphony Hall up there for the class of 2022 enshrinement ceremonies. We have a wonderful gala prior to that at the hall, showing off our new $25 million investment in redoing the entire Basketball Hall of Fame, and then we have the beautiful Symphony Hall in downtown Springfield. And as you all know, basketball was invented in Springfield. If anybody has the question, why are you located in Springfield, Massachusetts? The game was invented there in 1891, and Dr. James Naismith was there at Springfield College, what became Springfield College. I see my Springfield College students sitting right up here up front. It was the YMCA International Training Academy, and became Springfield College. And I think the important point about Dr. Naismith is that he wanted this game to be played by all. He wanted this to be a very inclusive game, and it clearly has become that. But just to underscore that, Dr. Naismith, when he invented the game in December of 1891, 3 weeks, not 3 months, not 3 years, not 30 years, 3 weeks after he invented the game, he was up at Smith College introducing the game of basketball to women players. And the rest is history. I mean, this game has traveled all over the world and has become a very diverse game. So we're here to celebrate that. We're here to celebrate the best of the best. And we thank you all for being here.
So John, the Hall of Fame class of 2022 is 16 individuals, but includes inductees from the Early African American Pioneer Committee. Can you give us your thoughts on the class as a whole? Also kind of what inspired you to work on that class. And Just, yeah, talk about that. And I think there's
Sure.
somebody in particular you might want to mention right
Yeah,
now.
I talked about the inclusion of the game, and 16 is a lot of people to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. But that clearly shows the breadth of this game and what it's become. The early African American Pioneer Committee was established in 2011, and it really was the genesis of that was Bill Russell back in 1975. He was the first African American player to be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. He didn't come to his induction ceremony because he felt there were other African Americans that were deserving before him to be honored in the Hall of Fame, and that didn't happen. So he chose not to come to the enshrinement ceremony and not to receive his ring. And it took several years, but we were looking at the various committees that we had, and in 2011, with the help of Claude Johnson from the Black Fives and others, we were able to really put forth a number of individuals who were nominated from the period of about 1910 to about 1950, which is kind of the official time when the NBA was integrated. It really took much longer than that. But so there's a category called Early African American Pioneers, and that's what it celebrates is Black men and women who played in that era that had fallen through the cracks from the Basketball Hall of Fame. So we have, now with these three, we have 16 individuals that are enshrined in the Early African American Pioneer category. We have a brand new exhibit to celebrate that in Springfield, and we also are going to be not only introducing our three new inductees in the class of 2022, but recapping during our enshrinement show on Saturday night, the entire category. So you're going to get a reminder, kind of a re-education about not only why this category exists, but also who's in that category and what impact they had on the game. And these are really people that set the foundation for the integration of the game. They couldn't play professional basketball unless it was against other African American individuals. Hence, you see the Harlem Globetrotters, right? But eventually, it was an integration into the professional game, the NBA. So that's really the story behind the category. But Bill Russell was very much a catalyst of that, and he got his ring. He accepted his 1975 ring. I think it was 2018 because he recognized that we were making progress, and he, I think, appreciated that. I don't think he was happy. Bill was a tough guy to please. But I think that he was pleased that we were making progress.
The Hall of Fame completed the museum renovations and has now seen a significant increase in visitation and foot traffic. Can you give us some feedback on the Hall of Fame Museum, how it's evolved over the years, and also the future plans?
Yeah, so we're very proud. We just completed a $25 million renovation to the Hall of Fame. Basically, every square inch of the Hall of Fame has been redone. We opened up in earnest kind of in the middle of last summer, but that was still COVID country. So this last summer, it was kind of, Katie barred the doors, the COVID was kind of over. So we had a normal summer, and we're up 65% in visitation over 2019, not COVID time, but pre-COVID. And I think that's in large part the investment we made in the museum. It's just terrific. I mean, we got 4.8 stars, and we're chasing the other 0.2 on the TripAdvisor. But every square inch is new. It's very immersive. We got a brand new Kobe exhibit. We've got so many other exhibits that are part of it, and we're very pleased with the reaction. And we're celebrating the game, and we're adding 16 new faces and new stories. And really, these stories are what makes the Hall of Fame. We call it the world's finest sports museum, and I'm going to stick to that story.
All right. Questions?
Well, please come to Springfield and see us. I know a lot of you are coming tomorrow anyways, but if you haven't been to our museum and you are up in the Springfield area and not coming tomorrow, please do stop by. I think you'd be very, very happy with what you see. And I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate all the support of everyone for our enshrinement ceremonies. I appreciate our Hall of Famers being here. I see Bill Walton out there in the audience in his typical seat every year, and appreciate your support. So thanks everybody, and let's get going and meet these 9 individuals that are here with us today. And you've already recapped the others that represent 16. So thank you so much, Mark, and we'll see you during the ceremonies.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
No, he didn't. Our first inductee to the stage this afternoon is one of 9 coaches in the NBA to win 1,000 games, and in 2013 was named the NBA Coach of the Year. Guy I got to know pretty well when I was covering the Denver Nuggets. Elected as coach by the North American Committee, George Karl.
Thank you, Mark.
Hey, Coach, how you
Oh, this is nice. You can't see very well out there, but a lot of people.
doing? Yeah, you got a few people out there.
Yeah.
Coach, when I was covering you, there were not many days went by where you didn't let me know you went to the University of North Carolina. Very proud Tar Heel. You also were coached by Dean Smith. What were the best lessons that Coach Smith gave you?
Wow. Well, that's a book. So, not only do I not remind you of it, that the game of basketball always takes me back to my roots, and my roots are the University of North Carolina. I was a high school kid that scored 35 points a game in high school, and I went to Carolina, and Coach Smith had a quiet way of turning me into a point guard and telling me I'm not allowed to shoot here, and you got to pass it here. But organizing the game and running the game from the point guard position is now dominant in the game of basketball. And my foundation of basketball all starts with Dean Smith. I mean, I had a good high school basketball coach. I had a good high school basketball team. But I never thought the game until I got to North Carolina. And then getting into the pro basketball also, you play 100 games a year. So your experiences of playing and learning, if you don't learn when you go into pro basketball, you get cut. I mean, it's college basketball is dynamic, it's fantastic in its own way. But to play in pro basketball, you got to have a doctorate in the game of basketball mentally. And in my education in North Carolina, I say most of my life I've been asked questions like, what's the best decision you ever made in your life? When I've been asked that question, I always answer it. Somehow I turned down going to Duke and Maryland and picked North Carolina. And I really believe that. I mean, my mentorship, my friendship, my connection to the fraternity of North Carolina basketball is in my life. Maybe not now on a daily basis, but it's in my life pretty much, almost on at least a weekly basis and maybe even more.
Coach, of all your fondest coaching memories, what's at the top of the list?
Over the summer, I've run into reflecting back. Probably the most fun is going to the NBA Finals. And that experience playing against Michael Jordan and the Bulls, I wish we would have played better early, because I thought we were a team that was close to them. I tell the story that if Nate McMillan was healthy, I've always thought that we could have beaten them. But I had my first year in Cleveland. I don't know how many people remember my start, but I started 0-9 and 2-19 and made the playoffs my first year in Cleveland. Being 2-19, we turned it around. Somehow we made the playoffs, and we played Boston, a very respectable series. We had the lead in every game, I think, in the last 5 minutes of every game. And of course, Larry Bird, and they got all the calls. And I remember complaining about the referees after my first year playing against the Celtics, and all my coaching friends, get in line. Celtics always get the calls, and that's still going on today, by the way. The Lakers and the Celtics, they still get all the calls.
Yeah, any questions from the media?
Hi, Mr. George. My name is Leo Montero. I'm from ESPN Latin America, and it's a pleasure to ask you something. It could be 2-on-1. If you dream about this moment for yourself, and what NBA team do you like to watch today?
Oh, that fluctuates. I mean, about 5, 6 years ago, I kind of like the underdogs and teams that, I coached mostly small market teams, and because of it, I probably root for small market teams more. I was elated that Milwaukee won the championship, and 5, 6 years ago, the player I liked was Giannis. The team I'm kind of infatuated with right now is Memphis. I just think Memphis with Morant, and I like their makeup of their team, and they're kind of gritty. They're kind of an angry bunch of little guys that they like the underdog rule. But we're in that stage of summer talk because everybody's going to win. There's about 30 teams out of 30 think they're going to win an NBA championship. And that'll take about 25 games into the season before we realize that probably 5 or 6 teams are going to win the NBA championship. I don't know why I gravitate to the small markets. My career started with the San Antonio Spurs. I'm still very loyal to the Spurs in many, many ways. And I think the NBA is in a very good place. Looking back at my career, I think I've been in the golden age of the NBA. In the mid 70s, the ABA-NBA merger happened in 1976. I was an ABA guy, and I still have a lot of loyalty to the ABA. And when that merger happened, both leagues weren't very financially stable. The ABA definitely wasn't very stable, but the NBA was a little wobbly. But since 1978, we've gotten Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and David Stern, and the league has blown up to be did we ever think it was going to be a multi-billion-dollar business? I don't think we did back in 1975, but that's what we have. And it's a tremendous compliment to a lot of players and coaches who are in the hall. But I think it's been an amazing journey, and I've been privileged to be on the sidelines of it most of the way.
Next question.
Hi, George. Steve Ashburner with NBA.com. I know you're pleased to be going into the hall this year with Del Harris, and a man who sort of had an influence over both you guys was Don Nelson. I'm wondering if you could talk a little about what Nelly meant to your career.
Well, as much as the ABA wasn't, I think it was really prominent in getting me in the game of pro basketball. I have no idea why Nelly put me under his wing. I was in Great Falls, Montana. He called me about the passing game that we ran, and ever since that point, he and I became very close. I invited him to come back to be a presenter for me. He says he's not flying back anymore, and I know Dale wants him to be a presenter for him too. But Nelly, kind of back in the 70s, was an innovator of the game. He would always start 3 7-footers and talk about playing big, but he really wanted to play small. And I really think Nelly's the first guy that played small ball. And I remember playing him one night. We had 9 guys on the court under 6'5", because I was refusing to let him be smaller than me. He went small, I went smaller. And so Nelly, through Nelly, I met Dale Harris. Through Nelly, I met probably my best friend in life was Rick Majerus. And I had these I had all these mentors that knew so much more about the game of basketball than I did. And I loved being around them just to steal. I mean, there's not much in basketball that I have not stolen from somebody. And Don Nelson is probably on top of that list, as is Del Harris, and a lot of great coaches in the NBA.
Hey, George, Don Harris, WAI-TV, San Antonio, NBC. You mentioned your ABA roots. Of course, in San Antonio, they all remember you as the scrappy little guard with the great hair.
Where did that go?
Can you talk about the ABA's influence on you and the game of basketball?
The ABA, for me, the ABA goes all the way back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was a senior in high school when Connie Hawkins won I was a sophomore in high school when Connie Hawkins won the ABA championship. And we saw Connie Hawkins play basketball in Pittsburgh before the rest of the world did. And I've always enjoyed playing fast. I have no idea why, but I always liked the city game more than the suburban game. And in the ABA, when I went into the ABA, I met Bob Bass and Doug Moe, and they were very much supportive of me to go into coaching, helped me go into coaching. Doug Moe has always been my mean big brother with the North Carolina fraternity, and for most of my life, I've been in a gym working. And that's such a blessing in my life that, you know, I wear shorts in the summertime till about November, and I wear sweats till May. And I've never had to put on a suit and tie very often. And I think, you know, I have a great family, but I also have a great basketball family of assistant coaches, of trainers, of equipment managers. And what I love about sports is friendships. I believe this, and I don't want to degrade anybody else's life, but I think sports makes friendships more soulful and more deep and more connected. And, you know, I just ran into Bobby Jones. I haven't seen Bobby Jones for 20, 25 years. And we had, you know, it's just marvelous to reflect and reboot some of the stories that we go through together. But the ABA, I'll be honest, I don't think the ABA gets enough credit for the prevalent greatness of their league. People remember after the merger, the first year of the merger, I think 10 of the 24 All-Stars were ABA players. The MVP of the All-Star game and the MVP of the league, I think, was an ABA guy. In San Antonio, we went to the conference finals 2 years after the merger and had Washington beat in a 7-game series. So, and we didn't have many NBA players. We had an ABA team. So, I just want the ABA to get a little more love. And I think some of the people out there know I'm trying to do a documentary with Amazon on the ABA and the NBA. And hopefully it will get out next spring.
And last question.
Jeff Garcia, Kings 5 San Antonio. George, you mentioned earlier you have an affinity to smaller markets, and you said you have a loyalty to San Antonio. Can you explain why you have such a strong loyalty to the Spurs?
Baseline bums. You know, I remember driving. I was in Chapel Hill when I was told by my agent that I was going to sign a contract in San Antonio. And I had a Porsche, and I jumped in the Porsche, and I don't know how far it was from Chapel Hill to San Antonio, but it's probably 15 or 16 hours. I drove straight through, and I remember driving up to the La Quinta at the airport and pulling in. And back then we had roommates, and my roommate was Kobe Dietrich, and Kobe and I are still best friends today. I named my son after Kobe Dietrich, not Kobe. Everybody thinks I named him after Kobe Bryant. No, I named him after Kobe Dietrich. And we were kind of the original Spurs. And we fell in love with the city. San Antonio at that time, was really a small market. And somehow, some way, Angela Drosos and Red McCombs made it work. And gradually we got better. They spent money on getting great players like Gervin. We bought Gervin, and I think we made a trade for Billy Pultz. And then we had a guy named James Silas already on our team who was the one sadness about my ABA days is the greatness of James Silas and Jimmy Jones will never be known in the NBA because they both got hurt before they got to the NBA. But the two best guards I ever played against were James Silas and James Jones, Jimmy Jones at Utah. But, again, I think the ABA, now the way the game is played, and really the way the game is managed, there's a lot of ABA to it. Halftime entertainment, cheerleaders, the All-Star game, the dynamic gala that the NBA does at the All-Star game. They were doing that in Denver before the NBA did it. So I'm an ABA guy. And we have a bunch of guys in Denver that are all ABA guys that get together about once every 6 weeks, have some pizza and talk basketball, complain a little bit. And I was really happy that the NBA gave the money they gave to the pension of the ABA about a month ago, because there are a lot of guys that need that money. They really do. There's about 130 ABA veterans still alive today, and a lot of them aren't doing that well. And I really thought the NBA I really was happy when they did that in a lot of ways.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Our next inductee is one of the most decorated players in women's basketball history. She's a 3-time All-American college standout at the University of Minnesota and earned gold medals with USA Basketball. During her time in the WNBA, she stacked up individual honors and 4 championships during a storied 15-year career. Elected by the Women's Committee, please welcome Lindsay Whalen.
Hey.
Hey. Having cemented your legacy in the WNBA, top 20 players of all time, and now Basketball Hall of Fame, did you ever dream a kid from Minnesota could do this?
Yes and no. Growing up, watching the NBA, watching college basketball. You think of it a little bit, but growing up, you don't know what it all will mean and entail as far as working and being a part of great teams and the different sacrifices that you make. You don't really realize that growing up, but at the same time, I admired a lot of great players in all sports. I was a big sports fan, and so watching and kind of studying different players in different sports all across the country, and especially the state of Minnesota. Kind of learning from them and seeing what they did, and then putting it into my own work ethic was something that I did, and I think was really, really big for me.
Having won at all levels, you're a 4-time WNBA champion, actually the WNBA's winningest player in terms of regular season and playoffs.
Yep.
Turkish and Euro Cup winner. As a basketball star that has won all over the world, what are the attributes to being an elite winner?
Yeah, I think you have to persevere. Yeah, I think that there's ups and downs in every season. All those teams that we ended up winning a championship on, there was at some point in a season where we learned from our adversity. We learned from a losing streak. Every Lynx championship, we had a 2 or 3 game losing streak, and it's in that time that we really figured out what we had to do to get better. We had to come together as a team And so it was in those times of adversity where you really find out a lot about yourself and a lot about your teammates. And so yeah, overseas was a part of some really fun teams. Same thing. That it's great when things are going well, but when things aren't going well, trying to figure out what's going to make the team click again. Having great coaches. I mean, being able to come out right from college into playing for the Connecticut Sun for Coach Tebow, one of the all-time great He really taught me how to be a professional coming from the college game. And then playing for Cheryl, who she really put the blueprint together for our team. And then with the national team with Gino, to be able to learn from all of those coaches and to have all of them put together, just the blueprints of those teams was really important for me. And with the Lynx, we came together at a great time of our lives. We really did, with Cheryl becoming the
La
coach.
ramera que le gustó a tu novia está
Back
enorme nada
to the
más,
Lynx.
dice Nacho.
Next year we draft Maya Moore. Simone was healthy. In 2011, Cheryl makes a great trade for Taj McWilliams Franklin, who had won championships before. Brunson, we got Brunson that year in 2010. So we all kind of came together at a really, really cool time. And then we win 4 titles. So later on we get Sil, who just finished her career and had a phenomenal career. So a lot of it was timing too. A lot of it is timing and taking your opportunity and understanding when you do have that opportunity to really take it and make the most of it.
That's at the game too, right? Gave you some-
Yeah. So so the one we know of for sure was 2015, our third championship. We played against Indiana. And game 5, I think he had a suite and everything at the game. We win game 5. And then afterwards, our general manager, Roger Griffith, came into the locker room and announced that we were gonna go to his house for a private concert. So,
Wow.
so yeah, it was fun. So Ben and I, we, got on the bus and went out there with all of our teammates and everybody's families and significant others. And we were with him till, I left early. That was at like 3:30 a.m. I think. Wow. Ben and I left early at 3 a.m. But I think there was a later group that stayed till like 6 or 7 a.m. So yeah, that was a great night. That was an all-time great night. And that was our third championship. And that was probably our hardest championship, 2015, to be honest with you. That was the year we traded for Sylvia. We had a little bit of a few losing streaks that year. And me and Simone weren't healthy going into the playoffs, but we kind of figured it out. We had a huge contributions from Renee Montgomery and Anna Cruz. And Anna Cruz that year at coming in and playing a lot of point guard minutes. So that was where Maya hit her buzzer beater in game 3 at Indiana. So yeah, it was fun because that was a year that we did go through a lot of adversity, but we still won.
Any questions?
Charles, you came all this way.
Had
I
to.
knew you'd have a good question, so this is perfect.
Charles Harvey, Minnesota Spokesman Recorder. 2 questions. One, how is being a Hall of Famer will set a tone or an image for young girls playing in the sport, whether Minnesota, wherever? And secondly, why did you choose Dawn Staley and Charles Barkley as presenters?
Okay. So, well, I think, so in women's basketball and really in anything, I feel like if you see it happening, then you really can believe it can be done. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. One of the first great teams that I saw in person was the team that Swin was on in 2002 with the UConn team. And so you kind of saw what a group of players with that team was able to do and winning a national championship and going undefeated and selling out. It was in San Antonio. So selling out that arena. So I was able to see and visualize, okay, a women's basketball team they can do this if you work hard, if you do all those things, then you can do it. And 2 years later, we're in the Final Four in New Orleans. So I think me being able to see that and visualize that and understand it is a possibility that I was able to achieve a lot. And so I think, myself and Teresa, Marianne, Swin, going in together, I think we represent a lot of what's been great with women's basketball over the years. And I think there's young girls and women right now that are sitting there that are seeing us, and that can become a realistic goal and dream for them if they work hard and they do those things. So I think just seeing it, then you can really visualize and really dream to do it. And then, so secondly, Charles was my favorite player growing up. I was Phoenix Suns all the way, and just had posters, and I had his shoes. And so when it came time to pick, I figured I'm gonna go big or go home. So I'm gonna ask Charles to see. I got his number, texted him. He got back to me about a day later, and so yeah, I'm see him hopefully tonight or for sure tomorrow. And then Dawn just being point guards, and now her and I have taken similar paths where she was playing and coaching, playing in the WNBA and coaching first at Temple, and now what she's done at South Carolina, I'm hoping some of that will rub off, and so we can have some of that success that she's had at South Carolina. But both being point guards in this USA Basketball Women's National Team dynasty that we have, she's in obviously a different era. She coached in 2014, the World Championships, and then 2016 with our gold medal in Rio, she was a coach. And so I've always looked up to her, and just her and I have taken similar paths as point guards, going right from playing to being a head coach. And so I really admire her. I look up to her a lot. I ask her for advice a lot, and obviously she's had so much success, and she's a big time inspiration for me.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Our next inductee has won over 900 games as a collegiate head coach. He began his coaching career in 1977 as a grad assistant at West Virginia University. After stops at Walsh University, Akron, Cincinnati, and Kansas State, he returned to his alma mater as head coach. There, he has success as a program builder, recruiter, and game strategist. He has directed the Mountaineers to over 300 victories since his arrival in 2007. Elected as a coach by the North American Committee, please welcome Bob Huggins. Welcome, Coach.
I hate when you do that. It sounds like I can't hold a job.
You're doing all right. You've been around for a while.
I have.
Speaking of which, Coach, you have over 900 wins over 40 seasons. What has been the key to your coaching success and longevity?
Good players. Good players. I've been fortunate. My first head coaching job was at Walsh University, like you said, and I went around and got everybody who didn't like where they were and brought them in. I brought a guy in named Ricky Williams, who was a great player, was player of the year in the league, and those guys have a tendency to help you, and then on to Akron, and I recruited a little guy out of Michigan that everybody else kind of forgot about, and Eric McLaughlin was the player of the year of the league, and we signed a junior college guy, Marcel Boyce, who was co-player of the year in the league, and that helps. That helps. And I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate, and I haven't been fortunate. I had the best player in the country in Kenyon Martin. We unquestionably were going to win a national championship, and in the tournament, the conference tournament, a guy rolled into him, broke his leg. Obviously, he didn't play the rest of the year. Came back and had a great pro career, but when Ken went down, you could just see all the air go out of everything. So, and then we were in the Final Four, playing in the Final Four against Duke, and Deshaun Butler was just coming off the Big East tournament, where I think it was he made 5 consecutive last-second shots to win games, and he went down. And really, he hasn't really played. He's tried to play, but really hasn't played since. But the Knicks just hired him in administration, so he's going to do very well. But it's just been ups and downs, but very unfortunate. And I to this day, it hurts that people didn't get to see Kenyon Martin in his prime and really what he could do. And it cost Deshaun Butler an NBA career. So those things are hard to take.
Coach, with the ever-changing rules of the NCAA, the NIL, and all that, what would be your advice to the coaches coming in now?
Get ready for change. You know, we don't have as much influence and say as honestly I think we need to have. We've got guys in the NCAA office who come up with rules and just kind of drop them on us and say, this is what we're going to do. And that's difficult. It's difficult when you're trying to build a team, when you're trying to get your guys to go in the direction that you think at that point in time is the way to go by the rules, and then come back with hey, by the way, we're going to change this. And I don't think it's fair to the guys in the program. It may help some of the guys coming in, but it's certainly not helping the guys that are in the program that have been there and busted their tails for a considerable amount of time to get to where they are and then have everything change.
Any questions?
Coach Ryan Decker, Golden Blue Nation, over here, Coach, in the back.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
there
see
you
you. Now I see you.
Coach, I know I spoke with you earlier, but you're going to have Jerry West and Rod Thorne introduce you tomorrow. Just take us through your reaction when those two Hall of Famers both said yes, and what that means to you as, you know, another WVU icon.
Well, I've been fortunate, as I know you know. My assistant I had an assistant who was more into like finding ways to have camps and things and make money. And so he said, why don't we do a fantasy camp and you can get Hot Rod and Jerry to come into the camp. And so I called those guys. They were great. They came in, fantasy camp. Rod wanted paid daily. As those of you who know Hunley know, that Rod did like money. He didn't hang on to it long, but he really liked it. And so I got to know those guys. But I knew Jerry a little bit before, more than I knew Rod. But they were fantastic. They were fantastic, and I've always idolized Jerry. Probably as most guys growing up in West Virginia at that time do. It's I don't know. I grew up in Doug Hill. For those of you who don't know, Doug Hill is suburban Saybrook, and then Saybrook is suburban Morgantown. And I grew up in Doug Hill. My grandfather did everything. I loved to play. I loved to play basketball, baseball, whatever. I loved to play. So my grandfather really tried to help me out all the time. Put this little hoop up in the garage. Unfortunately for my mother, he put it up right in front of the coal bin. So I'm listening to the games on the radio. The games weren't on TV then, but I'm listening to the radio, and I'm listening to Jerry play, and I'm listening to Rod Thorne play, and halftime I'd go out and shoot balls, and then I'd come back in just covered with coal dust, and my mom would say, you know, go upstairs and get a bath again. And I'm like, Mom, the game's not over. She said, Bobby, go get a bath. So I ended up, you know, taking a bath, and then my grandfather thought what a great thing it'd be to put the hoop up on the side of the house. The side of the house, and there was a driveway but it went downhill, and there was a road there, and then there was a creek. And so you could only shoot from the low side, because if you were on the top, if you missed, even if you made it, you had to chase it and run it down and go wade into the creek to get the ball out. So, I said to my grandfather, and then he put it upside down. He put the hoop upside down. And I said, Pappy, you got the hoop upside down. And he said, Bobby, it'll be easier to make it that way. So, my young life, my parents and my grandparents did, a lot of things to try to help me. The reality of it is my dad is probably one of the legendary coaches, at least in Eastern Ohio and probably in all of Ohio. I didn't realize until I was reading his obituary, he won 87% of all the games he coached. And I get to do things like this, and people say, hey, you've won 900 games. I didn't win 87% of them, I promise you. Yeah. I've been fortunate, and I've been fortunate to grow up in a family that was very athletic oriented, and grow up with a father who was, and probably is, one of the greatest coaches in the history of Ohio basketball.
Yeah, one more right here.
Bob, what does this mean to you in terms of not only the honor, but also you kind of stayed true to yourself at a time when the game has changed around you? What does it mean to you to have that recognized and to have doing it the way you did it honored the way it's being honored today?
I mean, I could stand up here and try to take credit, but the reality of it is I didn't really have a choice. The people that I was around, the people that I guess in a lot of ways I idolized, and I watched how my father did it. There was a guy in Farrell, Pennsylvania named Ed McCluskey, who was, if not the greatest coach I've ever seen, certainly one of those coaches. And I was fortunate he became like my grandfather. And so, it's pretty neat when you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, Dad, what happens when you do this, 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 or this? Or you pick up the phone and say, hey, Coach, if this happened to you, how would you try to fix it? And I was blessed. I was blessed to be around some of the great coaches. I was blessed to be around the guy who really kind of changed me was Charlie Spoonhour, because Spoon could coach like crazy, but when the game was over, and he's your best friend. I'll tell you one real quick story. I had a guy named Danny Fortson who was a great player, was a great pro. And Spoon put in this guy, his name was Saku Barentine from Texas. Big old strong guy, wasn't a great player, but a big old strong guy. So they're down in the post and they kind of get tied up a little bit, and Fortson throws it up and it goes in and they go rolling on the floor. Well, Tommy Rucker, those of you who follow college basketball, Tommy Rucker was a great official at that time. And so Tommy blows the whistle, and he's getting those two guys separated. And so Spoon's out there with a towel, and he keeps hitting Tommy Rucker with the towel. And I'm down on the other end, and I'm like, I got to get down there and do something. So I walk down there. Spoon hits me in the face with the towel and says, get your ass back down there at your own bench. And the guy's this big, So I walk down to the other end. Well, I go back down a little bit later, and Spoon says, Tommy, let's just get this all sorted out. What do you got? He said, I got a foul on Barentine. Spoon said, okay. He said, I got a technical foul on Barentine. Spoon said, for what? He said, well, he tackled him, Charlie. It's a technical foul. And Spoon said, well, I don't understand. What do you got on Fortson? Tommy said, nothing. Spoon said, nothing. He said, well, then I'm the dumbest coach in the history of basketball, Tom. And Tommy said, Spoon, you're a great coach. He said, I must not be. He said, I just recruited a unicorn. He said, Barentine's got a knot about this big on his forehead. And being around Charlie Spoonhour was, you know, I was pretty like kind of tight about everything. And then you get around that guy, and we were together all the time. But he had a great influence on me and the way I do things, and to take a look at some of the things that, you know, maybe weren't as important as what probably I thought they were. But I've been blessed. I've been blessed to be around just great, great coaches. And anytime I had an issue, I had a problem, I didn't know what to do, I had 3 or 4 people that I could call that y'all would say, those guys are Hall of Famers. Those guys are great, great coaches. So I'm blessed.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Our next inductee is regarded as a pioneer in women's coaching. She had a career spanning more than 40 years at the collegiate and pro level. She is already inducted in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, and tomorrow she will be inducted into the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. Recognized as coach by the Women's Committee, Marianne Stanley. How you doing, Coach? Good. Coach, you were a player on Immaculata College's 3 national title teams. At Old Dominion University, you coached the Monarchs to back-to-back AIAW tournament titles and an NCAA title with 2 current Hall of Famers, Nancy Lieberman-Klein, who I spoke to today. She loves you very much. And also Ann Donovan. How would you say those experiences as a player and a coach had an influence on your Hall of Fame career?
Well, I mean, you just read the accolades of 2 of the greatest women players ever to play the game, and to know that I had the good fortune to be able to coach them when they were younger. You know, Bob Huggins just spoke to this. Having great players makes all the difference, and you know, Nancy and Ann were 2 of the best to ever play, and they've written their own record books in terms of, you know, the outstanding ability that each of them had. And so to have that opportunity at Old Dominion was great. But playing at Immaculata kind of set the table for me. I played in 4 championship games under Kathy Rush, who, by the way, is a Hall of Famer, so playing for a Hall of Famer. Playing in a system that valued team play and all the great qualities that I think champions have. I was just really fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, and it informed just about everything that I have grown into as a coach. And you know, having the opportunity to get into coaching at a young age, when right now to do the same thing, I don't think it would happen that way. I was 23 years old when I became a Division I head coach, and just doesn't happen. So everything about my journey, I think, is kind of unique. You know, I've spanned decades and watched how Title IX has impacted, you know, everything in women's basketball, and I've just been really, really fortunate to be around great people, great players, great coaches, and their impact on me has been immense. I don't know, incalculable. I don't know that I could really quantify it, to be quite frank. To play with a player like Teresa Grentz, as one of my teammates at Immaculata, and just to have the experience of playing championship level basketball has informed everything about my coaching career. So truly a blessing, and you know, sometimes I feel like I really haven't worked my whole life. It's just been the most fun, exciting, challenging, yes, but great.
You also fought for equal pay, right?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to see if you could take us back to that time and what you sacrificed, and hopefully maybe influence today.
Well, I wasn't expecting that question, but yeah, we need to illuminate some minds about that. after having great success at Old Dominion, and then went back to Philly and coached at the University of Pennsylvania. Had the opportunity to go to the West Coast, to the Pac-12, and coach at USC. And the charge was to bring us back to championship caliber play. SC had won 2 national championships in the mid-'80s and had kind of fallen off a little bit, so they wanted us to get back to championship level play. So the first thing I did, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out Lisa Leslie lives in California. She just scored 100 and something points in high school. I think I'm gonna recruit her. So you get Lisa Leslie on your team, and Walia Woods, who was the best player in Northern California, and you comprise this team that ended up in year 2 going to the NCAA tournament. And then year 3, Sweet 16, and year 4, Final 8, and get knocked out by Cheryl Swoops. In the midst of year 4, while I was on the USA basketball coaching staff with Tara Vanderveer, last year of my contract, and so I went to the athletic director at Old Dominion, or at USC at the time, Mike Garrett, and said, hey, you know, we can be creative. You know, I'm open to however you want to do this, but I really should make the same pay. We need pay equity here in this situation. Over the life of the contract, we need to get to a point where I'm being paid the same thing to do the same job. And interestingly enough, you know, at that time, it was George Raveling, who's a wonderful person, wonderful coach, one of the great, great human beings you'll ever meet. I went in and talked to George, and I said, George, you know, I'm going to meet with Mike. I need to see if you have any words of wisdom for me. He said, I said, what do you do? He goes, Mary Ann, I lay awake at night and think of all the ways that they can compensate me besides the base salary. And then I ask for it. Okay. So very long story short, I go to my meeting with Mike Garrett, tell him that, you know, let's be creative, but we need to get to a pay equity situation here. And he's nodding the whole time. I went through the list of things that I do that are exactly the same as George Raveling, you know, games, but the expectations were get to a championship level. Like, we want you to take us back to the championship level. Okay, that didn't scare me. I knew what that was about and what it entailed. And he's nodding, and I leave the room thinking that we're gonna find a way to make Title IX real. When it says you get equal pay for equal work, something's gonna come across that reflects that. A week later, I got an offer that was, quite frankly, insulting, nowhere near pay equity. And it was a 1-year deal, and it was, you know, I take it or leave it. One of the most challenging times in my life, for sure. So I filed an $8 million lawsuit against the University of Southern California. This was in early September, '93. And filed the suit in court, in state court. Went to court, the judge clearly understood what was going on, said, let's go forward. And USC had the option to stay in state court or to move the case to federal court, because it was a Title IX is a federal statute. And so they opted to move it to federal court. I had to make a decision that day, 5 o'clock that day. You either stay in state court, take all of the Title IX provisions out of the complaint, and then you can have a civil case in state court with no Title IX, or you move into federal court on a Title IX basis. So I said to my attorney, Robert Bell, you know, this isn't about like how much money you're gonna get. This is about fair treatment, equal treatment, being paid to do the same job in the same circumstances equitably. And it's about Title IX, that's all it's really about. We can't strip Title IX out of this. So we stayed in federal court. At the time, Harvey Pregerson was the Supreme Court Justice in the state of California in the Ninth Circuit, and he got it. I will always be thankful that Harry Pregerson saw what was at stake and found in my favor. But it was a 3-judge panel. The other 2 judges didn't get it, didn't think we should be paid equitably, decided against, and so I lost the case in the Court of Appeals 2-1. But in his dissent, Harry Pregerson was very eloquent about this should go to trial and it should be decided by people about whether there should be pay equity for women's coaches of women's sports. And so I walked away knowing that, I stood up for the right thing at the right time. And, we lost we appealed to the Supreme Court. They decided not to hear the case. And so I think we kicked the can down the road. I hope that we kick the can down the road every time I see, since that day, which is probably 6 months later, since that day, I have always felt like every time a women's college basketball coach got their due, I was back there going, I'm very, very, very happy about it. So that was a long time ago. We're still talking about pay equity and Title IX here, so many years later. But, just standing up to do the right thing is something that I'm always going to try to do.
Well, Coach, congratulations, and thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Our next inductee is a Chicago native who had a prolific 14-year career with 5 NBA teams. This 5-time All-Star and Olympic gold medalist is best known for that UTEP two-step, the killer crossover dribble that has become a staple of today's game. Elected as a player by the North American Committee, Tim Hardaway.
What's up?
So for you, Tim, man, I thought you 5th time's a charm, huh? Yeah, John DeLeva from the Hall of Fame called you. I'm sure you were really, really nervous when your phone rang. I want to see if you could tell us a story about your emotions and your family's emotions when you finally got into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it was a very emotional day. Shaking, sweating, a lot of emotions going on. Saw the Hall of Fame number come through my phone, did not want to answer the phone. And because I didn't want to take another rejection. And I said, I got to answer it. So I picked it up and John said, Tim, I have some better news today than I normally have for you. And I was like, wow, yes, all right. And he told me, and I told my wife and my kids and my parents. And then I called Mitch and Chris at the same time. And I said, yo, fellas, I'm in. Chris was like, yeah. Mitch was like, what you in? What you talking about? I said, Mitch, I'm in the hall, man, I made it. He was like, oh yeah, all right, okay, yeah, good. So I was like, okay, sometimes Mitch is like that. So that's Mitch.
And, Isaiah Thomas, Steph Curry, Jason Kidd, Jamal Crawford, and CJ McCollum are master dribblers. I talked to them recently, and they view you as the king of the crossover, which is certainly high praise and the truth. Can you tell me how you developed that crossover and why you think it's still making an impact in the game all over the world?
Well, back in the day, in the 70s, we didn't have Nintendo or Xbox or none of that stuff. We had 3 channels on TV, 32, 2, 5, 7. We had an unfinished basement, and I used to go down, and I lived in the city of Chicago where it was cold, freezing cold, and sometimes there was no places to go, and sometimes you couldn't go outside because it was too cold. I used to go down in the basement and just dribble and look, and we had two beams down there. And as I don't know if y'all remember, it was a void basketball. It's like a rubber basketball. If you put too much air in it, it's like one of those balls where you just bounce and it goes and just goes. So you had to put the right amount of air in that ball so it won't break your fingers or bounce all over the place. So I just go downstairs for about 2 hours and I just dribble and I just imagine people that I'm playing against, so I didn't like, and I'm playing against, and I'm, going through real live action in the basement. And that's how I learned how to dribble, and that's how my dribbling became effective, and that's why I'm very confident in my dribbling, and that's where the crossover probably came in at. I don't know. I just was down there dribbling and doing moves.
Any questions?
Look at my man Russ Bradford. That guy right there recruited me to UTEP. My man.
Julio Mantega, National Basketball Retired Players Association, right here, Tim. How are you?
Great.
Congratulations on behalf of the NBRPA. Congratulations from all our members. Great article on ESPN today talking about Run TMC, the famed Run TMC, being reunited in the hall. At that point, I know you guys were only together for a couple of years. Did you think you were setting in motion the predecessor that led to a revolution in basketball and the modern day Golden State Warriors dynasty, that small ball style of play?
No, we didn't know that this was going to happen. Where they playing at, how they playing now. We never knew that. Don Nelson, an innovator, he put a system together where it was unorthodox. Other teams didn't know how to guard us. We had centers out there guarding centers that was dribbling the basketball and that could shoot threes, so they had to stay up and guard them. And the rules was they couldn't come down to double team nobody with the ball. They had to stick a guy. And a lot of centers was upset at Nelly and us because we was playing unconventional. But no, we never knew that it was going to happen like this, the way it is now. Don Nelson just put in a system where he knew he had three really good guys in Run TMC that can run what he's been trying to do for the longest with Milwaukee and now with the Warriors. And we was just doing it to perfection. And wish it could have lasted longer, but it didn't. But we had fun playing the game and going out there and playing and competing. So it was lots of fun.
Hi team, my name is Leo Montero. I'm from ESPN Latin America. Obviously we are here because of Manu Ginobili, and I have two questions. I don't know if you know that Manu Ginobili has, when he was a child, just one jersey. It was your jersey.
That was my jersey?
Your jersey, Tim
He
Hardaway.
didn't tell me that.
Okay,
Wow.
It's a good point to talk about it because he was at that jersey from the Warriors, and I just want to be sure if you know that story.
I did not know that.
Okay. And the question is, for you, who has the Team Hardaway crossover today?
Oh, yeah, y'all look at that. Yeah. Putting me on the spot. Wow. Nobody has the Tim Hardaway crossover. All right. But I tell you this, it's a lot of guys out there that can handle that basketball. Kyrie Irving, Steph, of course, Damian Lillard. And you still got the old guy out there, Chris Paul, I mean, it's a lot of guys that will hurt you, and if you're not ready for it, can break your ankle. So Tim Hardaway crossover, the killer crossover, nobody, but it's a lot of people out there that got handles that I don't want to guard today.
Tim, Gary Washburn, Boston Globe. Tim, how do you feel, obviously a great dribbler, but you are not allowed to carry the ball like NBA players are now. How do you feel about the kind of the liberal way that players are allowed to dribble? Does that upset you when you would have been called for carrying if putting the hand under the ball? And how were you able to dribble without carrying the ball?
Great question. When I was playing in the streets of Chicago, the old heads, if you put your hand up under the ball, they'd be like, no, we going the other way with that. And I'm like, no, what you talking about? They said, no, that's a carry. That's a carry. So I learned back then how to dribble the ball correctly. And so when you look at today, some guys, they 7 feet and they dribbling the ball. I mean, how else you gonna dribble? I mean, you gotta let them get away with something. So, but I mean, I at times I think they should call some stuff and tell them and recognize to them that they are carrying the ball. But it is what it is. Magic used to do it all the time.
Hi, Kenneth Minogue, Mass Live. I just wanted to ask you, Tim, how much did it mean to you in '97, coming back to the All-Star game, getting that selection after dealing with injury issues at the end of your time in Golden State?
Man, that was great. I don't think a person with that type of injury, I think it's probably 3, maybe 2 of us. Bernard King tore his ACL, and he came back and was on the All-Star team. Myself, I don't know, was it Dominique? I think, oh no, that was Achilles. But for him to come back after Achilles injury and make the All-Star team was great too. So I mean, those career-ending injuries back then, and to come back and to make an All-Star team, that's just all the hard work and belief that I knew that I could come back and be at my full strength if I just go out there and just do it. And I did it, and it worked out for me.
Tim, we have a couple PR guys I know you know well. Mr. McIntyre, salute to you always. And Raymond Ritter, I'm not going to ask Raymond if the Warriors are going to retire your jersey next season. But thank you very much for everything, and man, congratulations.
I appreciate all you all. Thank you all very much, and I'm very humble. Appreciate it.
She was a 3-time All-America at Immaculata University, a National College Player of the Year in 1974, and the National Collegiate Coach of the Year at Rutgers University. Selected as a direct-elect by the Women's Committee, Teresa Grant. Welcome, Coach, and
Thank you.
Congratulations.
It's fun to be here.
Yeah. We heard earlier from Immaculata College teammate Marianne Stanley. How would you describe the impact your collegiate and team and individual success had on women's basketball?
Well, first of all, when we played, there were no divisions. There was not Division 1, 2, and 3. You took your 5 and you played against Maryland, University of whatever. They were all there, and you played them. And it was our 5 against their 5. And as Marianne has already said, it was an improbable situation because we really shouldn't have won. I mean, we were a school of 500 women. I mean, seriously. And we had a team that we had no money, no budget, no uniforms. They were woolen tunics. When we went to the first national tournament, and the other teams in the tournament, they had their polyester warm-up suits that were really cool. And they said to us, if you, Immaculata, you leave these uniforms in the locker room, we'll steal them. And I said, if you steal them, we don't have a uniform to play. So I just think the fact that we won and we continued to win, there were 3 things. We were not going to disappoint our friends. We were not going to disappoint our families. We're not going to disappoint each other. And that is how we played. We loved the game. We weren't playing for money. We weren't playing for anything other than the trophy to play together. And I think when we made it to pass the first one, because to win the first championship, we were in the tournament. We were seeded 15th. And the 16th team was the host team of where the tournament was being played. We were 15th. We had to beat the number 2 team, the 7th team, the 3rd team, and the 1st team to win the championship. I mean, how the hell does that happen? And we did it. So you think that's a fluke, but then we come back the next year and we go undefeated. And then the next year we come back, we lose one game. I'm still ticked about that game, by the way. And we win that. And now things are starting to change. Things are picking up a little bit. But at that particular time, that was the start.
Why did you decide to go into coaching after your college days?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't.
Why not?
I wasn't going in there. I wasn't smart enough. And I said I didn't want to coach, but it ended up that I was a sixth grade teacher. I was married, sixth grade teacher, and St. Joseph's University called. And at the time, the AD was a guy, a priest named Father Michael Blee, and he had just fired Jack McKinney, who was coach of the year and the whole bit, and he was like this big bad guy in the papers. And I get a phone call from Father Michael Blee, and I was like, there's no way I'm talking to Father Michael Blee. This guy's unbelievable. But I go in, he was a wonderful person. I get hired. In the interview, I get hired. He says to me, I'm dressed, I have heels, the whole thing. He said, your team is waiting for you in the gym. I'm going to practice. I have no clue. So as I get in, and who is on this team but Mary Sue Garrity, Mary Melley, Chrissy McGoldrick, Kathleen Langley, and one other point guard by the name of Muffet O'Brien, who became Muffet McGraw, is on this team. We go in. So while they're doing one drill, I'm trying to think up the next part of the drill. And this is how it was. It got started. But the year before, when I was at Immaculata, I had played against them. And now I was their coach. Who knew? But anyway, that's how it went. And one thing went to another. But we played for the love of the game, and we won. And that's the biggest thing. We won and paid attention to it.
Any questions?
We're all bored, huh?
Thank you very much, Coach.
There's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My name's Kevin from Springfield College.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, nice to meet you. Which is one of your greatest lessons that you kind of learned throughout coaching?
Here's the one. You learn a lot from losing. Like people say that was you lose the game, that's a moral victory. Don't have too many of those. I figured it out by then. But when you lose something, for instance, I went to Immaculata because on March the 15th in 1970, which was a Sunday in the Ides of March, we had lost our home in a fire. We had absolutely nothing. I had the yellow pair of pajamas on my back that day. Thank God they matched. And I go to Immaculata. I don't want to go to Immaculata. I don't have a scholarship. I gave up a full academic scholarship to go to Mount St. Mary's. I had absolutely nothing, nothing. But when I go to Immaculata, you believe in it. And today I'm standing on the stage for the Hall of Fame. So I think my lesson would be, you learn from the things that the adversity, and we've already talked about that. Things, you don't have to have everything perfect. You take what you have, make that work, make the most of what you have, not what you think you need. Because there we were, had absolutely nothing, but yet tomorrow night, and I'm a nervous wreck about this, I'm going in the Hall of Fame. So that's my lesson.
We have one more question.
I love him. I met Charles for a long time. We'd go on those Nike trips. This is when he had a good golf swing, and then it went nuts, whatever. And then now he's back. He's back now. But the thing I love about Charles, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit, is my theme is with my presenters is the advocacy for promotion of women's and opportunities, equality, and he's in that. And what resonated the most with me, and I love his commercial work, I love it. But the one commercial that he has that really sent a message was the one where all the kids are playing in the playground, and they're boys and girls, and the girl, she chooses the teams. Trust me, I was on the playground, I wasn't choosing the team. So we've come a long way. Thank you, Charles.
And Coach, we have one more question.
We're done?
And
Anthony Minelli.com. Coach, you started off this press conference by mentioning all your accolades at Immaculate University. How did that influence your coaching career? How did your time at Immaculate influence your coaching career?
I told you, Anthony, I didn't want to coach. I really didn't. I was out of it. But again, I think sometimes God calls you to things. You know, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So I got called into this. I got these phone calls to go. And when I did, I went and tried to do the best job that I could. Because when I went to Rutgers, they all said to me, "You're nuts. You will never win at Rutgers." And I said, "You watch." Now, I didn't say that to them, but I thought that. You just have to believe in what you're doing and don't listen to your critics. And if you believe in it, that's your goal, then do it. And that's what I tried to do. That's what you do every day.
Coach, thank you very much, and
Thank you very much.
Our next inductee has dedicated his life to basketball, serving as a coach, mentor, broadcaster, and advocate for the game. He has over 50 years of coaching experience from junior high school to the NBA. He won Coach of the Year honors in 1995 with the Lakers, and he was selected as a contributor by the Direct-Elect Committee. Welcome, Coach Dale Harris. Good to see you, Coach. How you doing?
I'll tell you, if you think they saved the best till last, you're sadly mistaken. So,
well, Manu's last, so what does that mean?
What's that?
I said Manu's last, so what do you say?
Oh, well, there you go. Once
Coach,
again, I'm sadly mistaken. So, Ann will say, "I told you so." But anyway, I was so impressed with what everybody else said. I mean, when George came off, I was telling him, I said, "I'll just tell them what George said." And then it just kept getting just as good, just as good, just as good, just as good. And I'm glad that you asked Teresa some questions. She's a funny lady, and she's a winner. Anyway, I'm sorry, Mark, but I just had to throw that in.
You're good. Coach, you're already in the Hall of Fame as a John Bunn Lifetime Achievement Award winner. Now you're in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame as a contributor. What has been the most rewarding part of this experience and also your coaching career?
Well, it's hard to say. You know, I've been coaching or in the front office over 8 decades now, and I mean, touching on 8 decades through 6. So there's so many things that come through in those times. But I think that the most important thing of all is the relationships that one develops through the game of basketball. And to think that I have been a contributor to the game of basketball is the highest honor that I think I could have, because we've won a lot of games. I've coached all around the world. I coached at every level, boys and girls, 7th and 8th grade when I started, and then on through high school, college, ABA, NBA, Olympics, all around the world with different national teams, and written 6 books on the game, and spoken on 5 continents and in 30 states. And to think that I would be a contributor to this game that kind of consumed my life in a lot of ways from the age of 5 growing up in Indiana at a time when those of you that have seen Hoosiers know how important the game of basketball was in the post-war era. That'd be post-World War II for some of you that are not old enough to have gone through that. And it was a thing that was so important to people in the small towns in Indiana, but I never had a notion of being a coach. That all came later.
Coach, when you were at the Lakers, you coached 2 Hall of Famers, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. And let's see if you could give us your memories of coaching a young Shaq and Kobe.
Well, I coached with 15 players who are already in the Hall of Fame, and I didn't put them there. Most of them were well on their way before I got to them. 4 or 5 of them, I was their last coach. So anyway, and that's always tough, but amazingly, they're able to deal with that and all. But every team that I was head coach of, the Rockets and the Bucks and the Lakers, all had at least 3 and even 4 Hall of Fame players at various stages in their life. Kobe at the beginning, Magic at the end, Kobe's first, Magic's last. And in between, I had some wonderful players as well. As Coach Huggins said, whatever you do, the key is you have to have the players. And with Shaq and Kobe, they were at 2 different stages in their life, their basketball life. They were both young. When we signed, Kobe was 17. The writers asked me, well, what was your first impression of seeing Kobe? And I said, well, I thought he was really cute. And but of course, he was only 4 years old because I was his dad's last coach, Joe Jellybean Bryant. And of course, anybody know Kobe's middle name? Bean, that's right. And somebody got it right, a little fist bump there. But Shaq was 24 when we signed him, and he was going off, an exciting career with Orlando, but he hadn't been able to win big. He got to the finals once, and then they got swept and so forth. So, but he was ready at that time to really break out, I think. He was still interested in the movies and still interested in being a rap singer, which he actually wasn't that bad. I hate to say it, but he had that one really good going to the right.
I didn't know you liked rap, Coach.
Come on. I don't know how to do it. Anyway, he was a joy to coach, I can tell you that. If he had been as serious as Kobe was to being the greatest, honestly, I think Shaq could have been the best ever. He had that ability, I think, with the combination of speed, strength, and size with jumping ability and endurance. He was marvelous and was willing to carry a team as well, So, but then there was young Kobe who one time famously said, Coach, I could beat anybody in the league one-on-one if you just move Shaq out of the low post sometimes. And I said, Kobe, your day's gonna come. but I'm not doing that yet. And Kobe, the worst thing about my experience with Kobe is that we didn't have our own practice site. We were the second to last or last team to get their own practice facility. And I'm telling you, if we had had that then, Kobe would have just lived there. He would have bunked out there. He slept on the training table, whatever it took, because he was still staying at home with his mom and dad in Pacific Palisades. And when our practices was over, when we rented someplace, different places, 6 different places in the 4 full years that I was there. And then we'd have to leave after 2 hours. We didn't have a weight room, and we just, couldn't do extra. And so he would find a place to go play, though. I didn't know it at the time, all of it. I found out soon enough, but so what? I mean, that's just what he did. And he had lots of places he would go to and play more. So anyway, he was determined to be what he became. He was impatient. He wanted to be the best ever. And he came close. You can argue about 15 different guys that are the best, it all depends on your point of view, and I think the era in which they play. But I was blessed in every sense of the word, in every way, and everything that happened with me and to me. But to have been his first and Magic's last, and to been Shaq's, but then to go on down the line with Moses, Moses, the MVP twice for us, and I'll talk about that tomorrow night a little bit, and with Jack and Sydney on the Bucks, and then had Rudy T and Rick Barry and Elvin Hayes. Come on. So it's one thing to be a coach, but to think that having coached all those players, with all those players, I learned from them, by the way. That's why I say coach with them. To think that still somehow or another I contributed to the game and not just played it or coached it, that's more humbling to me than anything I would have ever thought about.
Yeah. Coach, I wanted to ask you how your hair is so good after 8 decades in basketball, but we do have another question.
I wasn't going to respond to you on that. I mean, I wasn't going to say what happened to yours.
I could actually get an afro, Coach, but I like to keep, I don't want the grays right now.
Man. I mean, you put on a little weight.
Yeah, you're right.
But you still write very well.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that.
And he can even MC, so he's good.
We do have one question.
Hey, Dell, EddieSefcoMavs.com.
I've heard of you.
I'm stunned that you couldn't get Nelly on a plane out of Maui to get him here, but
I know. I didn't feel quite as bad when who was it? Who else asked Nelly to come? George, yeah, of course. George, and again, feel the same way about George, and that's why I could say a lot of things George said. I mean, I'm an ABA guy too, that's where I started. And anyway, no, Nelly said the same words. It's not going to fly, across. And Tim really, he would have had him, and George would have had him. But
what's it mean for you to kind of be here with so many guys that have ties to Nelly, and including a referee in Hugh Evans that I'm sure you had a few run-ins with?
Well, not so many with him. That guy, that's rest in peace. Hugh, but he was, as I said so many times a day to other people, that he was a guy who was a good guy off the court, but he was easy to deal with on the court. You could talk to him. But you asked me before, Hugh, what was the other part of that? Oh, yeah, well, that was what it was. I'm old, and I'm on meds, by the way. I had a back operation Tuesday. So anyway, I was with Nellie 9 years. So I worked with him 4 years with the Bucks, and 5 with the Mavericks. And we were buds. I met him the first time. This is a good one. You don't know this one. This is a Nelly story you don't know. When he started out, he wanted to be a referee. And they said, okay, we would try you out in the Los Angeles Summer League, where all the pro teams went, like they do now to Chicago or wherever it is they go now. Well, it's Vegas, that's where they go, but it's young, and it was mostly the young players then too. So anyway, Nelly, I was assistant coach with the Rockets, and Nelly is refereeing in the league, you know. And anyway, they said, Nelly, you were a nice player, but you're not going to be a referee. They were wrong about that. He refereed a lot on the bench. But anyway, he didn't make it. So Larry Costello, rest in peace, hired Nelly to be assistant coach. Well, the first game that he was sent to scout was an exhibition game in Memphis. I'm assistant coach, and I say it, the assistant coach. It's the assistant coach. We only had the head coach and the assistant coach in those days. We didn't have 8 or 9 guys and, you know, with specific whatever roles. And they, at the scout table, they sat us both side by side. And I'd met him, you know, in LA, but I really didn't know him well. He said, Coach, this is my first game to ever scout. Could you help me out a little? I said, well, yeah, what, you know. So I scouted Nelly's first game with him, and we just stayed in touch after that. And about 19 games into, I guess it's his second year. I think he made it through the first year. His second year, I believe it was his second year. May have been the first. You could check that. They fired Larry and made Nelly the head coach. And I called him up and said, well, Nelly, you know, good luck and congratulations. He said, yep. I was just getting onto that scouting thing, and now I'm the head coach. And if you know Nelly, you got to understand that how humorous that is. And so after a couple of years, well, I became head coach in '79 of the Rockets, and we did the summer league again. And Nelly and I in those days didn't play golf, Eddie, you know, like we did with you. We played tennis. And so we'd play tennis every afternoon at the LA Summer League. And so he called me up and he said, you know, it's silly to go out there for 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. It was a 6-week run. You could stay for 2 or 4 or whatever that your team signed up for. But then you would stay as an assistant coach or a head coach. Well, maybe not so much a head coach at that time. But anyway, he said, let's don't do that. You know, it's not worth it. Let's have our own. You bring your guys up to Milwaukee, and we'll rotate and, and we'll practice some against each other. And, you take the ball 10 times and we'll take it 10 times and stuff like that. And he said, we'll have Sloan was coaching the Bulls. He said, we'll have him come up on the weekend and we'll play him, back and forth. Okay, so we had our training camp together that year. And so we've just been friends ever since.
Thanks, Coach, and congratulations.
We done? Okay. Thank you. I'll be here tomorrow night. All weekend,
Thanks, Coach. Our next finalist was a two-time NCAA champion. She had a 15-year WNBA career and is a three-time champion. With Team USA, she was a member of 2 gold medal women's basketball teams. She was recently named to the WNBA 20th anniversary team, and she is currently the Vice President of Basketball Operations and Team Development for the New Orleans Pelicans. Selected today by the Women's Committee as a player, Swin Cash. WNBA shirt right there, right?
Always representing.
Yeah, I see. Okay. You first made your name down the street from here, right?
Huh?
You're pretty popular in these parts, right?
Yeah, I know a few people around the way, right?
Yeah.
A few Huskies in here anywhere? Bleed blue? Okay, in the back over there.
Gino was your coach. You starred for the Huskies. What did that moment, that time mean for your career then and now?
Yeah, so it was it actually molded me in a different kind of way. I think in high school, how I played the game, how I approached the game, a lot of that came from being coached by a high school coach that played football. So that competitiveness and all of that was already in me. And I think when I got to the University of Connecticut, one of the things that Coach Auriemma really instilled in all of us was this ideal of every day chasing perfection, understanding you never were going to get there. So the bar was constantly moving, but you were trying to be the best, and practices were always harder than the games. But that prepared you mentally to understand what you wanted to achieve. And every year, the bar was a national championship. For some people, the bar is a conference championship, or hey, we made the tournament. Whereas at Connecticut, we hang banners.
It's a little flex there.
Small flex.
Okay, all right. You're currently in a groundbreaking, door-opening position with the Pelicans. What did getting that job mean to you, and what does that say to young women who aspire to be like you?
Yeah, so I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I have now, and obviously working in the NBA in the capacity that I'm working with the New Orleans Pelicans. I have to give a big shout out to David Griffin, also team governor, Ms. Gail Benson, for just having the idea to say, look, we're trying to cultivate, a team and kind of build that foundation and build that sustainable success, and taking a chance on somebody that hadn't worked previously in a front office in the NBA. I've had great amount of experience with the New York Liberty and the WNBA, thanks to Isaiah Thomas, Kia Clark, Kristen Berner for that. But to make that transition and have such a high profile job, and really being like, Griff saying to me, look, you can do a lot of different things. I want you to have kind of your imprint on this team, what it looks like, and trusting me with that. And it's been a wonderful ride. I've had opportunities to be at games, and young women and men coming to me and like, I want to learn about your position. What does it look like? How can I get there? But I'm a firm believer, in order for us to really evolve not only the game on the W side and the NBA side, we have to be all inclusive. Diversity of thought in your front office, on your coaching staff, amongst players, like that is important for growth. And so I'm really happy to be in this role, being able to impact, and obviously to continue my professional career.
The shop. Tell me about your time with them. I heard some Pistons people were here. Sad the team is no longer here, but
I know.
tell me about that time with them and your playing career in the WNBA.
Yeah, so I'll start with Detroit. I mean, that was a time, I think Rip says it all the time to be alive. It was, for me, being drafted to the Detroit Shock. You have to understand, I was at UConn, I went 39-0. I go to Detroit, get drafted number 2 behind my college roommate, Sue Bird, and we go 0-13. And I literally felt like in that moment, in this small moment, like the world was just coming down. I'm like, how are you guys okay with this? Like, winning is part of like what you do. And I realized that it was gonna take some time, but then the bad boy came busting through the door, and Bill Lambert. And I wanna give a shout out to Bill, because for him, I think it was a challenge as well, of just coming like, how do I coach women? And we asked the question like, is this just your little stepping stone to get to the NBA? And it was like, no, I'm here to do the job. And he felt confident in himself to do it. So my experience with Bill, I mean, at 22, he basically said, listen, he walked into the gym and it's just him and I. He sat a chair right there. And then he set a chair right in front of it. And he said, let's sit down and talk. And at 22, he said, you're the future. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I need from you. This is the type of leadership I know you can have, and you got to trust me. And I did. And we were able to create something with my other teammates. It wasn't just me. I mean, Deanna Nolan, if you haven't seen her play, you need to go on YouTube, because she was cold, from Flint, Michigan. To have other teammates that I played with the Shock, it was unbelievable. Cheryl Ford, Ruth Riley, Lane Powell, I mean, Katie Smith. We just really were about Detroit, and we played that style. And that's how we got the nickname the Bad Girls, which we kind of embraced. And you know, won a couple championships there. I played 15 years altogether. I went to Seattle, had an unbelievable time in Seattle, winning a championship there together with Tanisha Wright, Sue Bird, Lauren Jackson, and gone from like Detroit to Seattle was definitely different from a cultural standpoint, but it also was refreshing, because there you had Force 10 Hoops that, as a all-female ownership group of this professional team, really was trying to pour back into the city and into Seattle, to the Storm. And the fan base was phenomenal. I had great fan bases wherever I went. And to finish my career in New York City was probably one of the highest times of my life, because there was so much responsibility that came with that. And I have to give a shout out to the organization of New York for understanding the importance that the New York Liberty, the role they play not only on the court, but in our society and in our community. And I think how we embrace the social responsibility, how we were able to have those conversations about basketball and transcending the game and inclusiveness, that all started and really bubbled up to the surface for me being in New York.
Coach, congratulations, and we'll share some gumbo in New Orleans soon.
We'll share a little bit. Y'all take care. Thank you.
All right. And our final inductee was a legend in the international game long before he arrived in San Antonio. Starring in Europe, he won several championships as part of Argentina's golden generation. He helped his home country defeat the USA in the 2004 Olympics. A two-time All-Star, NBA Sixth Man of the Year, a four-time champion with the Spurs. He had that Euro step, and he's one of two players in basketball history to win Euro League title, an Olympic gold medal, and an NBA championship, as Charles Barkley would say, Ginobili. Recognized as player by the North American Committee, Manu Ginobili.
Hi guys. I see a couple yawning already.
They're awake now.
You guys been here for a long time, I guess.
Dale Harris said
great to see some familiar faces. So Don. The back too. Oh, brother too. Okay. All right. Whenever you want to start, or
I was just listening to you talk away. But no, I did have a
What can
question
I
for
say?
you.
I mean, it's unreal that I'm here in this moment, being inducted to the Hall of Fame. I mean, I guess nobody really expects to be in the Hall of Fame when they grow up, but you know, being in it from a small city in Argentina, a country that is known for their soccer teams, making it all the way to the NBA was for me at that point already an unreachable dream. And then things started to happen year by year, improvement, growth, development. And then one thing brought the other one. I get drafted just by sheer luck by one of the best franchises in sport. And we start winning. And then when things start to happen like that, then you start thinking, oh, whoa, people start thinking about that I may become a Hall of Famer. I said, that's ridiculous. But, you know, at 45, a few years after retirement, here I am. So a very unlikely outcome for a kid born where I was born, but super grateful of every single person and team along the way. I'm not the type of player that would have gotten here regardless. I needed great teams. My biggest accomplishments are individual, are not MVPs or things like that. I'm here because I played in incredible teams. I know that, I value that. So I gotta recognize a lot of people, coaches, teammates, physios, strength coaches, all along my journey. So incredibly lucky to have played in teams that I played, having landed in very special teams in special times. So ready to be celebrating with them and acknowledging them.
You obviously played with a few Hall of Famers, got coached by a Hall of Famer. Just talk about your time in San Antonio, your championships, and what that era meant to you. Only jersey you wore.
Yeah, I mean, 16 years playing for the same coach, basically with the same point guard, with the same power forward. And with many teammates, I played more than between 5 and 10 years for the same colors, the same community, the same fans. So I'm set roots there, right? And I've been incredibly lucky to have played for, you know, the best coach ever, best power forward ever, great point guard, been multiple all-stars, and we created something very special and something that doesn't happen, you know. 4 guys from the same team playing 15 years together and winning 4 championships. It's unrealistic, but that's why I'm being so lucky to have lived all that experience. So incredible.
Yeah, you're from a soccer country, but you and your Argentinian teammates changed a lot of things in Argentina, South America. What kind of impact do you think that in your country and the world you have made globally with the game of basketball?
Yeah, I mean, we were one of the few countries that were starting to push the boundaries, right? That were starting to threaten the US close games. Till in 2002 in Indianapolis, for the first time, we were able to beat the US team. So I think it changed. It changed the way teams faced those tournaments. So the aim was not just to be there and take pictures with the dream teams, but go and challenge. So again, I was just talking about how lucky I've been and how unreal my experience with the Spurs was, playing 16 years there. But I played with the national team for 18, basically. I started in 98, finished in 2016. And again, with a few of those guys, 18 years. So it's unbelievable that I was able to have 2 careers in parallel at such a high level, so successful. So yeah, when I started to think about it, it's just unbelievable. So very, very fortunate to have lived both experiences.
Manu's going to take questions and answer them, whether it's in English, Italian, or Spanish. He'll answer it back the way, same language is answered. So,
Buenas, Manu. Julio Mantega, Sindicato de los Jugadores Retirados. Felicidades de todos nuestros miembros. Tengo dos partes aquí. Primero, la emoción, las emociones que tienes al acercarnos al día que vas a entrar en el Salón de Fama. Y segundo, ¿qué significa entrar al Salón de Fama con tu ídolo de infancia en Tim Hardaway? Que mi gran colega Leo Montero acaba de informarle que él no sabía que era ídolo tuyo.
Bueno, primero, Michael Jordan era mi ídolo indiscutido, ¿no? Cuando Michael Jordan fue tan popular que ya todo el mundo, el ídolo era Michael Jordan, como que me elegí el otro equipo, ¿no? Entonces, a raíz de buscar otro equipo, ahí elegí los Warriors y Tim Hardaway era mi jugador favorito. Pero sí, estoy muy, muy contento. Obviamente, todo esto trae un poco de presión, de responsabilidad, de nervios. Pero bueno, ya toda esa parte pasó, ya preparé mi speech, ya mis invitados llegaron y está todo bien y ahora ya a disfrutar, a pasarla con ellos, que son parte importante de la razón por la cual estoy acá. Coaches, compañeros de equipo, así que nada, una reunión de amigos y al mismo tiempo celebrando mi carrera nuevamente, ¿no? Así que nada, muy contento.
Manu, Don Harris, News 4 San Antonio. First of all, congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Hey, you're the winningest player in NBA history with 721 winning percentage. Tim must have been sick a couple of games. But people that I asked today, Bruce, Fab, others, I asked for the one characteristic they would sum you up on the court. And they said basically the motor, the tenacity. Was that something you were born with? Did you notice at a young age when you were a little boy in Bahia Blanca that you played harder than other people? And where did that come from?
Yes, I noticed it very early on. I never looked for it. I didn't choose it. I didn't practice it. It was ingrained somewhere. I don't know if it's in genes or something happened in my family that I got impregnated with that craziness. But my brother behind you, Don, could testify. I wanted to win in grades. I wanted to be a better student than him. I wanted to run faster. I did. And every time I was on the court, I wanted to win, and I wanted to die for a loose ball, and I wanted to not lose too. That was another motto. So yeah, it's not something that I chose. I know, Pop talked about it all the time, and I appreciate it. But I don't know if I can be proud of it because I never looked for it. It's just, when the ball was in the air, I just had one goal, and I wanted with my team to beat the opponent. But yeah, it was in every stage. I play tennis now, and I want to win, and I go ride the bike, and I want to beat my time. So I assume it's genetic or something, but it's natural. It's not healthy. I'm pretty sure I don't want my kids to be as competitive as me because most of the times you're going to lose, and it's not fun when you're like that. But that's the way I was brought.
Manu, ¿cómo estás? Leo
Gracias,
Montero, ESPN Latinoamérica, un gusto saludarte, amigo. Estuvimos hablando hace un par de meses de cómo recibiste la noticia y que tenías que después transitar este momento. Todos te decían que ibas a ser un Salón de la Fama, un ganador, muchos títulos, todo, pero otra cosa es disfrutarlo. Un poco ya hablaste de esto, que quisiera saber si lo estás disfrutando o no, y recién hablabas de ganar. Varias cosas. ¿Hubo algún momento donde vos te empezás, una cosa es querer ganar y otra cosa es empezar a sentirse ganador? ¿Vos sentiste en algún momento de tu carrera que te empezaste a sentir ganador?
creo que ahí en un momento entre el 98, 99, 2000, ahí cuando empezaron a pasar cosas que no esperaba y me salían en el juego jugadas o absorbía cosas de compañeros de equipo, de rivales, donde me empecé a notar que había algo distinto, que había una marcha más. Y bueno, y después se fue intensificando hasta, bueno, el 2005, 2006, que puede haber sido mi pico. Así que, sí, hasta ese momento estaba medio trabado con el tema. Sentía que no podía ganar nunca, que sí, jugaba bien y hacía ciertas cositas, pero que no podía hacer que mi equipo ganara. Hasta que me destrabé con eso. Pero en cuanto al goce, al disfrute de la situación, sí, de entrada no tanto. Me costó, porque hay muchas cosas que pensar, es un quilombo bárbaro esto. Hay un montón de cosas que te pasan, y mensajes, y invitaciones, y el discurso, y uno quiere agradecerle a todo el mundo, porque realmente siento un agradecimiento infinito, y no podés. Entonces eso me genera una cierta presión, pero creo que en las últimas 24 horas, desde el momento de llegar acá, un poquito cambió y ya estoy mucho más tranquilo.
Hey Manu, Jason Zone Fisher, NBA Social, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm curious, what was going through your mind? Where were you? Can you describe the moment when you got the call informing that you are a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I was in San Antonio. I knew the finalists were being announced. The announcement came and it was only the finalists, but then, everybody was telling me, oh no, it's going to happen, you're going to be there. And so you say, okay, I mean, they know better than me. I don't know. I didn't know what the Hall of Fame was before coming to the States. I was completely clueless about the world of the NBA or American basketball. But then, you start hearing rumors and people telling you future Hall of Famer. So you start believing it. And a few months ago, I was in San Antonio. TJ called me apart and told me and received the call. So it was when, rumors become a reality. So I'm incredibly honored, of course.
Iñaki Estíbaliz, Agencia F. Manu, cuando llegaste a la NBA había pocos hispanohablantes. A lo largo de los 6 años aumentó considerablemente esa presencia. ¿Cómo tú has vivido ese aumento de hispanohablantes en la cancha? No sé si aumentó el trash talk en español o te sientes vinculados a los hispanohablantes de otros países. ¿Hay un vínculo, tú crees, ahí en la NBA entre ustedes? Y por otro lado, ¿esperas que Pau Gasol te acompañe pronto en Springfield?
Sí, hay un vínculo. Obviamente te diría que con todos los jugadores internacionales, cuando llegan, como que uno los recibe y trata de generar una conexión, a pesar de la confrontación, ¿no? de que sean rivales. Sobre todo con los sudamericanos que han llegado a la NBA, uno siempre trata de acercarse y charlar un rato. Trash talk nunca hice en mi vida, nunca fue lo mío era siempre hablar lo menos posible dentro de la cancha, salvo con hechos y con mis compañeros. En cuanto a Pau Gasol, no hay ningún tipo de duda, imposible dudarlo, así que no sé cuándo es el momento, cuándo le toca, pero hay jugadores como Tony, Dirk, Pau, que es cuestión de tiempo. Cuando se cumpla el plazo, aquí estarán y como corresponde, ¿no? Y ojalá pueda estar acá para celebrarlos.
Manu, acá, a tu izquierda. Yes. Leandro Fernández de Sporting News. Manu, te ha tocado ganar muchos premios y reconocimientos individuales en tu carrera. ¿Qué diferencia tiene este tipo de reconocimiento y qué diferencia, si es que la encontrás, tiene con lo que fue la ceremonia de tu retiro de camiseta, entendiendo que son dos menciones diferentes, pero cada una especial a su manera?
No cambia el concepto. No hubo un premio individual que yo no lo haya tomado como de equipo. Cero. Desde el sexto hombre a los All-Star Games, cada vez que pasó algo de eso es porque mi equipo se destacó. Y esta no es la excepción. Yo estoy acá exclusivamente porque San Antonio Spurs ganaron 4 anillos, la selección argentina 3 medallas o una medalla dorada, Virtus Bolonia, lo que quieras agregar, pero estoy acá por las virtudes de mis equipos y lo tomo de la misma manera. Esto creo que ya, lo otro era más San Antonio, esto es carrera en general y no hay forma que lo que pasó con la selección argentina en estos 18 años no sea premiada de algún modo, ¿no? Entonces, estoy acá por eso y lo tomo de la misma manera.
Manu, primero felicidades. Paco Fuentes, Televisa, Univisión. Pues David Robinson, Tim Duncan, a ti, ¿a quién le corresponderá a Manu nombrar la próxima vez aquí en el Salón de la Fama? Y por segunda, por dejarla ahí también, si ya tuvo oportunidad de Tim Duncan de pues vengarse de esa broma del vaso en la silla que tantos hemos visto.
Bueno, quedan 2 más, Tony y Pop. Tampoco sé cuándo corresponde, pero aquí estaremos para celebrarlos a ellos también. Subirá al escenario el que corresponda, el que ellos quieran. No sé ni cómo es la logística, pero sea lo que sea, aquí estaré. Así que otra cosa que es, se cae de maduro, ¿no? Que los dos tienen que estar por acá. Con Tim tenemos una muy linda relación, salimos a andar en bicicleta seguido y a pesar que no lo parezca, tiene un muy buen sentido del humor y siempre encuentra la forma de hacer un comentario secado sobre cualquier cosa. Así que no, es un placer de compañero.
Hola Manu, acá abajo. Una compatriota, Bárbara, de Springfield College, y te quería preguntar, ¿qué crees vos que fue el factor especial que tuvo la generación dorada que les llevó a alcanzar un montón de las cosas que alcanzaron? And then in English, I'll say, what was that special factor from the golden generation that you think allowed the team to achieve everything they did?
You're showing off now. You have to control that.
She wanted to. She wanted to. What should I do now?
First one.
In English or in Spanish? I show off, I say in French. Okay, what made our generation different? I mean, the timing, the world was changing in basketball. And also everything because of the NBA, right? The NBA is what allows us also to flourish, to grow, because of what they generated, with the inspiration they generated. And the NBA became a goal for all of us, so made us work harder, right? And we were incredibly lucky to have a group of guys that were roughly born in the same age, from 75 to 80, that were very talented, hard workers, and they got along. It sounds pretty simple. It's not that simple. You see it all over the world. Sometimes a great generation, but you got 3 point guards and 2 shooting guards. We got the whole thing. And we loved playing with each other. And we loved hanging out. So it made us want to play together and commit and want to get better. So it was a very unique situation that we faced maybe in 1999, the first time the core group got together, and we started growing. And, the results are out there. I mean, we played together for, as I said before, Sam, Nocioni, Scola, Oberto, we played almost 15 years together.
Jeff Garcia, Kens 5 San Antonio. Manu, just a couple of questions. One, what would your message be to San Antonio that embraced you from day one till now, and they see you enter the Hall of Fame? And then why Tim? Why did you select him for your presenter?
Well, it has to be somebody that is in the Hall of Fame. And there's not many Argentinians that I play with that are in the Hall of Fame. And Tim, played 14 years with him. David could have been another option, but I played only 1 year. I thought David was the right man for Tim and Tim for me. So it was a no-brainer. I mean, I owe TD big time. I mean, there's no Hall of Fame talk if TD is not in my team. we know that. So it it was true. I mean, it was the right thing to do. No, Jeff, you want to?
Jeff McDonald, San Antonio Express News. Manu, obviously you came from a basketball family. How out of the ordinary was that, given where you came up? You talked about that's a soccer area. How out of the ordinary was your upbringing, and what kind of impact did that have on you?
Yeah, I mean, it was out of the ordinary, but I mean, if you take the whole country, Argentina, soccer crazy. Like, soccer is here, all the other sports are here in popularity. My city is an outlier. My city is a basketball city. They love soccer too, but it's a basketball city, and everybody talked about basketball. And we play. We got, in a city of, when I was born, probably 250,000. We had 20 teams, every age, and we competed every single weekend, and we went pretty hard. So, my dad was a big fan. My two brothers already played. I grew up a block. I'm basically telling my speech now. I gotta stop. Something is going on here. I'm just spoiling it. So, being so close to the court, I was there the whole day, and we talked basketball. We played all day long, all year long. So it was not that unusual to have a family of basketball players and lovers. The unusual part is ended up here. I mean, that's not something that happens. At the moment of my draft year, 1999, no Argentinian ever played in the NBA. So what happened, right? Then, we were a bunch, but the goal or the dream of playing in the NBA was unrealistic growing up. But I did invest a lot of time with the ball, shooting, dribbling, and just breathing basketball.
Manu, acá, a tu izquierda, un placer. Sebastián Toroc del diario La Nación de Buenos Aires. Manu, está claro que sos una leyenda, ¿no?, del deporte, pero ¿crees que esto le da un toque de efecto de perpetuidad a todos los logros que ya tenés, a la perpetuidad realmente?
Y es un museo, ¿no? En Hall of Fame hay un museo y seguramente algo habrá mío ahí. Así que en cierto modo sí, es así. Y como que lo otro, hasta lo que pasó hace 3 años con la camiseta, fue muy San Antonio, ¿correcto? Por lo que hice ahí, por lo que pasó, lo que vivimos, todos los que estuvimos ahí. Y esto ya pasa al básquet en general, al básquet mundial. Entonces creo que sí, en lo que remite a nuestro deporte tan querido, no creo que haya logro o reconocimiento más grande. Después de esto no viene nada más. Así que la verdad que es un inmenso honor.
Manu Ginobili, Bruno Altieri y ESPN. Bueno, primero que nada felicitarte por tu extraordinaria carrera y preguntarte cuáles crees que son tus mejores recuerdos en el básquet, considerando la selección argentina, considerando San Antonio, y también cómo crees con el tiempo que serás recordado. Hablas mucho de el equipo, el teamwork, sos uno de los mejores sexto hombres de la historia. En el tiempo, ¿crees que ese va a ser tu mayor legado del básquetbol NBA?
El legado más grande será lo del murciélago. Imposible de superarlo. Vos mirás en YouTube, Ginobili, sale el murciélago primero. Después todo el otro. Los momentos más increíbles están en general ligados a las victorias, ¿no? Porque bueno, uno labura mucho, se esfuerza y vive un montón de presiones y responsabilidades y termina logrando el objetivo con tus compañeros y bueno, es un momento de éxtasis. Y tanto el oro en 2004 como tanto el campeonato como el 2005 como el 2014 para mí fueron muy especiales, como en otra liga que los otros dos. Es imposible no pensar en eso, ¿no? Pero cuando lo ves un poco de afuera y experiencias y estás acá y todo eso, y querés agradecerle a tus compañeros, a tus técnicos, al masajista, al que te vendaba, al que limpiaba la cancha, porque son ¿viste? Hacen también que la atmósfera sea buena y que uno le guste ir a entrenar y que lo disfrute y generar una atmósfera linda. Así que todos los otros momentos, esas cenas, esos viajes, esas charlas después de la derrota también te hacen unir mucho con el grupo, ¿no? Y apreciar un montón de cosas que viviste con mucha gente. Así que guardo en un lugar muy importante de mi memoria todos esos momentos. Lo que pasa es que no son momentos que pasan en un día que vos decís, esa charla. En cambio, una victoria, sí, fue ese día, el 28 de agosto del 2004, ganamos el GOS, o el 23 de junio del 2003, mi primer campeonato de NBA. Es muy fácil de reconocer, pero que momentos hay miles y que valieron la pena todos, ni hablar.
For the PR people here, Tom James and Ritter and Matt Ryan, now I know how y'all feel when you say last question. So I feel bad, but unfortunately, and you've been very gracious with your time, so thank you. This is the last question from Manu.
Bueno, Manu, acá. Gerardo Barberán Aquino de NBA Latinoamérica. Recién hacías un paralelismo de la importancia que tiene el fútbol en nuestro país con respecto a la de otros deportes. Quiero saber si al terminar tu carrera te sentís conforme con el lugar que ocupa ahora el básquet en Argentina.
No lo sé qué decirte. Estoy conforme, no, está donde tiene que estar. No, ni siquiera es mi responsabilidad. No entiendo la pregunta. A ver, no sabía ni cómo responder la pregunta. Está donde tiene que estar. Donde la gente le gusta el deporte, está. Si no le gusta tanto el deporte, le gusta más el fútbol, está el fútbol primero, y si no el tenis o el rugby. Y sí, hay una generación que puede empujarlo. Y sí, pero hay momentos de rating muy alto tuvimos, pero después vuelve a donde tiene que volver. Y pasa en todos lados. Así que sí, podemos haber generado un auge en un momento, como bueno, por ahí Vilas en su momento, o el que sea. Pero sí, puede haber un pico. Después vuelve a donde tiene que estar. Y para cambiar eso radicalmente tiene que haber un trabajo serio de raíz que nunca va a pasar en nuestro país.
The next guy coming up, I think you got him his job. You're the reason why he had to fix USA basketball, but you're one of the reasons why I had to fix USA basketball. But well, thank you very much, man. Okay. And congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. See you guys.
Thank you, Manu, and all the 2022 inductees here today. Now I'd like to introduce the chairman of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame, former managing director for Team USA Basketball, and a 2004 inductee, Jerry Colangelo.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, sir. Talk about the 2022 class and the impact they have had on the game and the impact they will have from many years going forward.
Well, again, it's a very, very diverse group. I'm thinking back on other press conferences, people who are going into the Hall of Fame. I don't think we've ever had an interview like we just had, okay? In different languages, and to get that kind of response is amazing, but it's indicative of where the game is today. It's a world game. There's no question about it. And it's great. It's great for all the people within the game. So it's a great class. We're very excited about the opportunity for each of the individuals, the great stories each of them have about their past, and invariably they talk about the people who got them there.
If I'm not mistaken, I think this was the last public event that Bill Russell attended. Can you talk about what it meant for you to have Bill Russell at the Hall of Fame last year? And I don't know if you have any lasting conversations with him before he passed.
Well, for all of us who have been in basketball for any extended period of time, the name Bill Russell just in itself signifies what the game is all about. He was an incredible player. He was an incredibly bright, man who had a lot of things to say when he spoke. And when he spoke, there was a message. You look at his characteristics in terms of his personal life, his accomplishments, etc. There's been no one like him. There's only been one, and that's Bill Russell. Getting him back last year was a big challenge because of his health in particular and the distance he had to come. And so we were so happy that he could make it and experience what he did. But he was failing. And that's one of the things over the years, it's kind of heartbreaking when some of the people who are being inducted are feeble or can hardly get up to the stage, and some of them don't make it. And Hugh Evans, for example, in this class, a terrific guy, a tremendous in his body of work. We saw him in New Orleans. That was it. And then we find out that he's gone. So for all of us, we want them to enjoy the moments. This is it. This is the pinnacle for people who have played the game, and most of them, being honest, would say, I never thought of it, never would dream that I'd be part of it. And so it's just a blessing to be involved.
Any questions, anybody?
Well, enjoy the evening and tomorrow.
We got one question.
Oh, I couldn't see it.
Jose Redondo, Spectrum News 1. I just wanted to ask you about Manu. He's a guy that caused a lot of trouble for Team USA in the mid-2000s. Could you just talk about his impact on the game globally?
One of the great competitors ever in international basketball, for sure. I remember the first time I saw him, it was in Italy, in Treviso, in a game where he just kind of mesmerized me in terms of his effort more than anything else. It wasn't that he scored 40 points. It was just his overall play and competitiveness, and that marks who he is and the impact he's had on so many young people to kind of emulate, him. 04 was the bottom for USA basketball when we lost in Greece and finished third. And I was asked to take over after that situation, and we've won the last 4 gold medals as far as the Olympics in 8 and 12 and 16 and 20, which turned out to be 21 in Tokyo, and then world championships along with it. Always, Argentina was one of our concerns. And you could begin and end with Ginobili. Just the fact that he was on the court made them a threat. And I think, and he did play with some really good players on that team. And they knew each other like the back of their hands. But he was the force. And so I think he's recognized internationally as one of the great players of all time, for sure.
Gary?
Jerry?
Yes.
Gary Washburn, Boston Globe.
Yes, sir.
You talked about some of the inductees either being maybe a little too old to enjoy the process or even passing away. Will there be any reviews about the process to try to ensure that some of the inductees who might be getting a little bit up there have an opportunity to get in before those things happen?
Well, here's the thing. We can't play God, and we don't know when any of us are not going to be here. And so you're really talking about speculating how long someone's going to be around. It's difficult, but let me say this. It's something we talk about all the time, because we want to do a better job whenever we can to make sure, it happens sooner rather than later. But it's hard to be more specific than that because we can't play God.
Well, thank you, Jerry.
Okay, thank you.
That will conclude our press conference. Thanks to everyone here for coming out today and watching our audience, and to our audience watching on NBA TV, NBA.com, and the NBA app. Please tune in to NBA TV at 9 p.m. tonight for the awards gala, and NBA TV tomorrow at 7 p.m. for the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame Enshrinement Celebration in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm Mark Spears for ESPN's Anscape. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.